Welcome to The Explainer. If you just glance at the headlines, you might actually think the world of AI is just this unified, unstoppable march toward progress. Well, get ready to look at the landscape completely differently. We are currently watching a massive, fundamental, and honestly incredibly heated ideological clash playing out right now at the very top of the artificial intelligence industry. We're talking about billions of dollars, the future of national security, and a fiercely competitive battle over who actually gets to control the future of this technology.
That is effing insane. Now that is not just a random comment from a frustrated user. That's a direct quote from Alex Karp, the co-founder and CEO of Palantir, and he delivered it during a recent, completely scathing CNBC interview. When the head of one of the absolute most powerful data and AI software providers for global defense agencies comes out swinging like this, we've got to stop and ask, what exactly is he talking about? What's driven him to this level of frustration? Well, to really get it, we need to unpack the competing business models of AI.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the AI industry rift. Then we'll break down tokens versus weights, look at Silicon Valley versus the Pentagon, dive into the enterprise data dilemma, and finally, ask who controls AI's future. Let's jump in.
Part 1. The AI industry rift.
To really wrap our heads around this battle, we first have to know who's actually standing on the battlefield. On one side, you've got OpenAI, led by Sam Altman, obviously, the makers of ChatGPT. Right alongside them, sharing a very similar business philosophy, is Anthropic, led by Dario Amodei, the creators of the Claude AI models. And then, on the completely opposite side, we have Palantir, led by Alex Karp. Palantir is widely known for building heavy-duty AI-powered software used by governments, defense agencies, and massive global enterprises. And according to Karp, while he actually enjoys debating people like Amodei in private, he's taking this public now to say that something in the way OpenAI and Anthropic are rolling out and selling AI has gone completely wrong.
Moving right along to Part 2. Tokens versus weights.
Okay, so to grasp why Alex Karp says things have gone completely wrong, we have to look under the hood at how these companies actually sell their products. When you use an AI from OpenAI or Anthropic, you are operating on what's called a token-based business model. Tokens are essentially just the small chunks of text that the AI models read and generate. Every single time you ask a question and get an answer, tokens are being processed. Think of it like a taximeter ticking up for every single word generated. Companies like OpenAI and Anthropic typically charge their customers based on exactly how many of these tokens they use. It's a pay-per-use system. The AI developer builds the model, they host the model, and essentially, they just rent out its brainpower to you, chunk by chunk.
But here's the catch. If tokens are just the words the AI speaks, the weights are the actual internal brain wiring. Weights refer to the deeply internal parameters of an AI model that determine exactly how it behaves, how it reasons, and how it can be customized for highly specific tasks. And this is Palantir's core argument. Organizations shouldn't just be renting tokens. They need to actually control the weights. They need to own the internal parameters of the AI they are deploying, rather than leaving that ultimate power entirely in the hands of third-party developers.
Which brings us to Part 3, Silicon Valley versus the Pentagon.
So why does this super technical distinction matter so much? Well, because it scales up to a massive geopolitical issue. You see, Anthropic operates on a very strict safety-first approach. They are highly deliberate about how and where their AI is used, and they will absolutely restrict deployment if they believe a customer crosses their safety thresholds. Palantir's model, however, is built around defense continuity. As a major software provider to the U.S. Department of Defense, or what Karp sometimes bluntly refers to as the Department of War, Palantir's ultimate goal is to ensure that military applications have reliable, uninterrupted access to AI technology. And right now, these two totally different worldviews are colliding head-on.
The truly crucial point is how this philosophical divide is playing out in the real world as we speak. According to recent reporting, Anthropic has been locked in a tense standoff with the Trump administration. Sticking to their safety-first stance, Anthropic completely refused to allow its technology to be potentially used for mass surveillance or autonomous weapons. And as a direct result of that refusal, the Pentagon actually cut its contracts with Anthropic. This is a massive shift. In response to these exact tensions, Palantir has actually been pivoting and expanding its support for alternative AI models, including those from Elon Musk's xAI, specifically to guarantee there's absolute continuity for their defense customers.
And that brings us right back to Alex Karp, who frames it like this. In the classified context, when the Department of War goes to you and says, I need this application, do they get to control the weights to do it, or do you get to control the weights? Are we really going to outsource the battlefield of this country to the consensus view in Silicon Valley? His stance is crystal clear here. For national security, relying on rented tokens from developers who might suddenly pull the plug based on their own internal safety consensus is, in his words, effing insane. He's arguing that the government absolutely must have control over the underlying weights.
Let's look at Part 4, the enterprise data dilemma.
Now, this isn't just about the military. This exact same debate is echoing inside everyday corporate boardrooms right now. Karp points out a deeply frustrating cycle that regular enterprises are experiencing with these token-based AI pricing models. It goes like this. Step 1. Companies spend heavily paying for tokens to use models like ChatGPT or Claude. Step 2, they realize they're getting essentially no commensurate value. They're just burning time and money. And step 3, which is honestly the most dangerous part for businesses, they risk exposing their valuable intellectual property and losing what's called their alpha, their unique competitive edge. Why? Because they don't control the AI. They are just feeding their absolute most valuable data into someone else's machine.
Karp claims he is basically acting as the voice of American business here. He notes that enterprises are completely, utterly tired of being oversold on AI. He says, quote, "Every single enterprise I deal with, these people are livid. They're like, I am paying for tokens that create no value. These people are stealing the weights and alpha of my business." It's a stark warning. Companies are terrified of becoming overly dependent on third-party AI providers who own the tech, while the businesses just sit there footing the bill and handing over all their proprietary data.
Finally, Part 5, who controls AI's future?
So, let's take everything we've talked about and put it into focus. This fundamental debate centers entirely on two radically different models. First, you have the token model, championed by OpenAI and Anthropic. It's outsourced AI, it's pay-per-use, and most importantly, the developer retains total control of the model's weights and behavior. Then, on the other hand, there's the weights model, which Palantir argues is absolutely essential. This is in-house AI. This gives enterprises and defense agencies full control over their own data, and it allows them to customize the AI's behavior to their specific, exact needs without having to rely on the goodwill or the ideological alignment of a Silicon Valley developer.
So we are left with a massive, industry-defining question. Should Silicon Valley developers control AI's underlying weights? Or should the end users, whether they're businesses or the Pentagon, have absolute control over the systems they rely on? It's a high-stakes battle of business, ideology, and security. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.